Somebody came in the room and they pointed out to these troglodytes, you bitch and complain about, I'm paraphrasing, about how, quote, Darth treats people. He goes, I've been in rooms where people are cordial and polite and there's a vigorous interaction and Darth treats them fine. Maybe if you guys stop treating Darth badly, you won't get the reaction from him that you're complaining about.
So, can anybody come up here and tell us where the right to abortion comes from?
So
We're
here's
still waiting
another
for answers to the
troglodyte who was
question.
whining and here's another troglodyte who was whining and complaining about me. Go ahead, Roberto.
Well, Darth, I was not being unfair to you. I said exactly what happened in our interaction.
I beg to differ with you. You have a skewed interpretation of what transpired. Okay.
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 Do you want to start over?
Now, sure.
Okay.
So you're the guy who believes in God, but that God is not a personal agent. Is that correct?
Yes, based on your definition of
That
what
Okay.
agent
Well,
deism?
is.
then we're no longer talking about God. Okay.
If you're saying if we don't talk about God as an agent, then we're not talking about God?
Yeah. hmm
And why is that?
It's definitional.
You'd be
So,
talking about
so
something
if
impersonal by
well,
If
definition.
you're talking
okay,
if you're talking about an impersonal, absolute, and ultimate, it doesn't possess agency. Then you're no
okay,
longer talking about God.
okay. Let me flesh out more because right now the only definition I have to work with agent is one who makes choices, right? So, does making choices imply change?
Yes.
Okay. Does change imply temporalness?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'd like to understand how an agent that exists at a time in which they are not in the change which they bring about can also be a god.
Yeah. You're making the mistake. When you say exist at a time, do you mean out of the time space continuum of the cosmos?
Okay, let's break it down further. What does
Okay.
change mean?
You you
Because
you
maybe
did
we
you
don't.
did you didn't answer my question.
Okay.
Okay. When you say God is outside of time, what does it even mean? What is time?
Time is the movements of bodies in space, right?
No, that's not even close to even a dictionary definition. A dictionary definition of time is the indifferent progress of events.
Okay.
Now, there
Let's work
are
with that
certain
definition.
there are certain there are certain Christian philosophers like William Lane Craig, who's written extensively on the issue of time, who has argued that God is timeless sans creation, but with creation he becomes temporal. There is R.T. Mullins, who I have a lot of respect for, although he's not a fundamentalist. I just got done reading his book called The End of a Timeless God, where he rejects the notion that God is timeless, okay, that he's just simply enduring, okay? So God is, in a certain sense, temporal. So the bottom line here is this. Okay, either you, if you claim to believe in God, but you don't believe that whatever you call God is personal, that is an agent that has capacity to make choices, then you need to stop calling it God, because the word God in Western speaking English generally and usually refers to that which is the supreme being, the creator of all things that are not himself, and is personal and is an agent. Okay, so you need to call it something else.
Okay. So I fine. I mean, where are we going to go with? I mean, if I say something, you're probably going to take it as an offense. So, am I allowed to continue on exploring your
I'm I'm
definition?
I'm, I'm waiting that you are not using the word God in a standard way that is used in Western speaking English.
Uh-huh. So when I say that that they are the supreme creator of everything, right? You're saying that by saying that, by invoking that definition, cannot at the same time say that he exists outside of time.
Okay. Okay.
Is that,
First
did
of
I
all,
understand that correctly?
we you need to focus that we need to resolve. Do you accept the basic concept a meaning of God in the Western world, that God refers to the supreme being who is the creator of all things that are not himself, and that he is personal, and that entails that he's an agent. Do you accept that definitionally?
No.
Okay, then you need to stop calling whatever you do believe in God. You need to give it another term.
Okay. Now, what I want to understand from your position is holding those ideas at the same time. Why is it not a contradiction to say that God is an agent, which is the last part of your definition?
Okay, so we're
And
switching
also,
topic here. Okay. So your question is, what's the contradiction?
okay, you stated that he is the supreme creator of all things which are not himself,
Hmm.
and is also an agent. Okay.
Hmm.
And what
Hmm.
I want to understand is, if agency, according to your definition, means progressing indifferently, how is that not an invocation that God exists at a time where
I'm not.
he
I'm
does
not.
not
I'm
have
not. I
everything?
don't. I don't. I don't take. I
Uh-huh.
don't take this position that quote unquote God is out of time. Okay, you're making a conceptual error here. Okay, that
Okay.
time is some realm that all things exist within. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
let me use another
By
phrase
by
then.
time by
Not
time by
contingent.
time you mean that something is is without change. Okay, whatsoever.
Outside of time would be without change.
Okay. Well, I don't hold to that in my picture of God.
Okay, so how can you be outside of
And
time
and
and
and and in
change?
fine and in fine, are you aware that the God of the Bible, the God I believe in, is never depicted that way either? Okay. So what
Okay.
we have God just simply is, he's enduring, and he initiates change by creating. Okay.
Okay.
So you see, the view of God that I hold to, and that many of my Christian acquaintances hold to, is the creator creature distinction. There's nothing that God resides in, is encompassed by, is subject to, or depends upon. Everything that is not God derives and depends upon God. So, although there are people like William Lane Craig who holds to the timelessness of God sans creation, um, I think that it's a better view that I have changed to, where God is just simply enduring, okay, and that saying that God is timeless sans creation is problematic. It's not an ipso facto philosophical defeater, because if it really was, William Lane Craig, who is an expert on time as it relates to theology, would have abandoned that. Okay, so you're not going to have a philosophical for defeater when we say that God is not encapsulated by some realm.
Okay. So that's why I spoke of qualities, because I believe in the existence of praxeological
Okay.
conception of time.
Okay. Do you understand that when we invoke God conceptually, to say that in order for God to be, or to be coherent, that he must be encapsulated by something, is a contradiction in terms.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
my point to you.
Yeah. Well, good. So the bottom line is the
So we
position
agree.
that I hold. The position, no, we don't agree, because the position that I hold to is that God is not encapsulated by anything. But if we want to say time simply
Yes.
means an absolute uh, change versus chainlessness, God, I can just simply just say God is enduring,
Okay,
and it
but
doesn't
that's
pose a
my
problem.
definition of God. So where are we
Okay, but no,
disagreeing?
but your definition, you see, we're using, if we're going to use basic terms like God, okay, we're going to use standard definitions. You are not using a standard definition. You believe that there is something that is ultimate, absolute, non-personal, and a non-agent, right?
Non-agent, yes, because the
Okay, well then
quality,
you need to
not
come
not
up.
the quantity
Then
though.
you need to come up with a different word other than God, because in normal English, God refers to the supreme being who possesses personhood or personality and is an agent. Okay, so you need to come up with another word other than God.
Okay. And all I'm asking for is just a clarification to understand how one can invoke both the term enduring to describe the quality of God and also change. I just want to understand the distinction. Qualities, not
And
quantities, not absolute things that can be measured. I'm asking for a
well,
qualitative distinction.
first of all, we are limited because of our humanity to understand and explicate God exhaustively. So we can only talk about God to a certain degree based upon what God has revealed. So what God reveals is that he is the eternal one. He is simply, we can use the word enduring, okay, from a biblical point of view. And R.T. Mullins invokes that as well. And if you want to read his book, it's called The End of the Timeless God, okay? It's floating around on the internet. You can read it, okay? So
Okay.
the point is this, okay? We take the position that God just simply is, okay?
Okay.
Right? That doesn't mean that God in and of himself cannot change by his own volition, okay? Now, if God makes a change, right, of himself, and you want to say, well, that's time, okay, fine, so be it. The bottom line is, I want you to defend your worldview. How do you do so?
Through argument, through transcendental argumentation.
Okay, well, here's the problem with that. What you're attempting to do is mimic the biblical transcendental argument. Okay, the transcendental argument is in part revelatory. How is your non-agent, non-persona thing, whatever that is, how is it revelatory and communicative?
Because I know things to be absolutely the case, which I can no
No,
longer
by
break
what?
down into
Okay,
more.
okay. Is there something that uh, is absolute and eternal?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because if I were to deny it, I'd contradict myself.
No, there would be a contradiction. What would be the contradiction that there isn't something that is eternal? What's the
Well,
contradiction?
the statement itself is eternal.
No, sir. Why couldn't something pop into existence?
Because the statement is a claim of eternality.
No, you're
It's
not. You're
it's
not
a
getting this. You're in argumentative mode. Okay, listen carefully. How do you know that there is an eternal absolute? And you're not telling me that the eternal and absolute exist by virtue that the absolute itself is communicative. You're just simply saying is that the non-acceptance of it leads to some incoherency.
no, I'm saying the assertion. So if you assert that there is no such thing as an eternal concept, that claim asserts that it must
No,
in order to be true,
sir,
it must be eternal.
no, sir. What I want you to know from you, do you know that there is something that is absolute, that in and of itself, it has intrinsic, unchanging status, right? Okay, not a complete unchanging status, but there is something in and of itself that is unchanging and invariant.
Yeah,
Do you
like
know?
the
Do
concept
you
of the number one.
hold on a sec? Hold on a second. Yeah, we're going to go this route again to it. See, this is what inevitably you unbelievers do. You start to appeal to abstract objects, which is a major fail. Okay, because abstract objects don't stand in causal relations. Now, you are not telling me that you know that there's an absolute by virtue that the absolute is communicative. You're just simply telling me by virtue of a priori reasoning, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that doesn't work.
Why?
Okay. Go ahead. Explain to me. How do you know that anything's absolute? Because if you appeal to any standard of reasoning whatsoever, you're already going to have to presuppose that some things are unchanging and absolute, such as
Okay.
laws of logic.
So
Are the
so you
laws
just
are the laws of logic absolute, invariant?
if I say yes, where will I
I want a direct
con-
answer. I want you to stop the hemming and the hawing. Okay. You are using a priori reasoning, which is going to have to implicitly hold to the fundamental laws of logic in order to then explicate and reason outwards. Okay.
yes,
So when you read, good. Now, the laws of logic, are they absolute and invariant?
yes,
Okay. What makes them that way?
because if you try to argue against it, you have to invoke logic in order to do it. Therefore, you would defeat yourself.
Okay.
Because if you were
What,
right
okay, listen
before
carefully.
making an argument, you
Listen
wouldn't make an
carefully.
argument.
Listen to me carefully. By the way, I just had a phone call. Listen carefully. What is it that institutes and secures the absoluteness and invariancy of laws of logic?
What is it that, ask that question again?
Okay. The laws of logic, do they apply universally to everything that is real?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that institutes and secures the absoluteness of the laws of logic in terms of all real things? If the laws of logic are
I don't
universal and
know.
invariant, okay, so you're invoking another absolute that you don't have a justification that there's absolute in order to establish the metaphysical absolute. Do you realize how convoluted that is?
No, I'm being honest. I said I don't know because
Okay,
I can't break
okay,
it down
okay.
into further
See, you didn't
components.
answer my question. You see, this is the problem I have with most unbelievers that I'm dealing with. You're ignoring my question to you while pretending to answer. I'll repeat the statement again. Do you realize how convoluted your position is that I just unpacked? Do you realize that?
No, I don't.
Okay, then we're going to go over it again. You are seeking to establish that there is an absolute from which all things derive and depend by a priori reasoning. But the a priori reasoning itself requires the absolutes of the laws of logic. But the
Yes.
laws of logic are not absolute in and of themselves, okay? Because conceptual laws
Oh,
don't stand
I
in
see what
causal
you're saying.
relations, okay? So what you're
Yes.
attempting to do is to say that the laws of logic are the ultimate underpinnings by which you're going to defend that there is a metaphysical absolute.
No,
That is,
no,
okay,
no, that's not the case.
you're not focusing. Listen carefully. You are using a priori reasoning
Yes.
in order to defend that there is a metaphysical absolute, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does the metaphysical absolute, whatever it is, institute and secure the laws of logic being universal and invariant?
I don't know. I'm being honest with you.
Okay,
I don't
you're
know
not
because
understanding. You're not understanding.
you're not.
Listen to me.
I'm understanding perfectly what you're saying.
Do the laws of logic exist in and of themselves?
Do the laws of logic exist in and of themselves?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay. Are they the product of the absolute?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you appeal to a priori reasoning, a part of that a priori reasoning is going to start with the laws of logic being invariant themselves.
Yes.
Okay? But you see, you're going to have to presuppose the absolute in order
Yes.
to invoke the laws of logic. So you're
Yes.
guilty of circular reasoning.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
It's not circular. It's not
Listen
circular.
to me.
You're not being honest.
Listen to me. My patience is really running out
It's
with,
not
and I'm
circular.
in
You don't
all.
understand what a
Listen
circular
to me,
reasoning is.
okay. If you listen to me, my patience is running out with
It
your
always does.
okay. Listen, no, my patience is running out because in this area you are incompetent and you simply because you have the gift of gab and you're argumentative. Listen very carefully. Are you using the laws of logic foundationally with a prior reasoning on top of that and depending on that in order
Yes, just as you are.
okay, listen to me. The way I reason is not at issue at the moment. Okay, now you are using a priori reasoning in order to establish the actuality of the absolute. Okay? Right? Now,
No, I'm not. That's what you're doing.
Okay, listen to me. Listen to me. Whether you realize it or not, I am bending over backwards being patient with two things. One, your ignorance and your argumentative style. Okay? Listen carefully.
Likewise.
Are you using okay, you can fuck off. Okay, you're gone. You're complete. You're an argumentative ignoramus. Okay, he's gone. All right. So what
That
he's
was
saying
just
is
terrible.
he just you see he has the reasoning capacity of a precocious 16-year-old, right? He says he's using a priori reasoning in order to establish the absolute. Okay? But the a priori reasoning itself is going to require that there be invariant universal laws of logic. Okay? But they could not. He said that they don't exist in of themselves, and he said they exist because of the absolute. So when he's invoking a priori reasoning, it's going to require that absolute. Okay?
And that is circular. He just denies it like
Yeah.
a moron.
Yeah. Right. Now, not all forms of circularity is problematic, but his is. Okay?
But the fact that he denies it's circular is just patently stupid.
Yeah. So what he wants to say is he's just using a priori human reasoning that there's an absolute. But he didn't even show us how a priori reasoning shows that there's an absolute. Remember how he said transcendentally, right? He's
Yeah.
trying to mimic biblical presuppositionalism, but it doesn't work. Okay? Because you see,
Because
we're coming from two different worldviews. If we were in the same worldview, he might be able to get away with that. But we're not. Okay?
so K1ers, what's up?
Right.
Hi. What's the argument regarding the title?
Yeah, I'm just asking a simple question. People who believe in abortion rights, bodily autonomy, that sort of a thing. I'm just simply asking a question. Where does that come from? You believe the right to abortion exists. Where do you get it from?